Alright guys, Pathfinder 1.6 is live right now. Everything is changing, classes are getting overhauled, and yeah, you read that right. Paladins may be any good alignment. Things are going crazy, and we're gonna bring it to you right here. If you guys like what you see, remember, hit that like and subscribe button. This episode of your Pathfinder playtest content was brought to you in part by our newest patron. You might know him as Sonia, the brilliant sorcerer who decided it would be wise to burn Somberfell Hall to the ground and then get eaten by a sea serpent. You might know him as Armugalindel, Elf Ranger, go fast, don't have a lot of days to complete Mirrored Moon, everyone reroll after the TPK with the fastest move speed possible. I know him as Mr. Daniel Barker. Thanks for your support, my friend. And hey, we're looking for an extra body for Doomsday Dawn. We're taking a week off so everyone can update with these new updates on their characters. But starting Friday the 16th of November from 7 to 10 p.m. Central Time, we're picking up the Heroes of Undarin, and we'd love to have one more person throw dice with us. If you're interested, put it in the comments. Remember, patronage at any tier gets you an extra entry, and patronage at our highest tier means you auto-win. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter and talk Paladins, shall we? Okay, so it's a really contentious thing across all of nerddom that the Paladin must only be lawful good. Different games have changed it, different house rules have changed it. Personally, I've played many a chaotic good Paladin at tables under the strictest of understandings that if I went all baby killer, then I would lose all my powers. As of the Pathfinder playtest, that is no longer a house rule, it's canon. Quote, each paladin follows a code of conduct based on their alignment. This begins with a set of tenets, reflecting the overall causes shared by all paladins of a general alignment, such as good. Then continues with tenets defined by the paladin's cause. Deities often add additional strictures for their own paladins. For instance, Shaylin's paladins never attack first except to protect an innocent, and they choose and perfect an art form. Only the rules for paladins of good alignments appear here, though paladins of other alignments are known to exist. Foreshadowing. Not even foreshadowing. Have you guys played through Doomsday Dawn? My party didn't get it. My party was fast. But if you aren't quick enough in Pale Mountain Shadow, there's definitely an anti-paladin that comes and attacks you. Literally, that's her name. Henna the Anti-Paladin. Does this mean we'll see lawful neutral or chaotic neutral paladins in Pathfinder 2.0 at some point? Maybe. But before I get down to these specific causes, for those of you out there, and I know one of my good friends definitely is not happy with these changes, let me play defense attorney for Paizo just real quick. By allowing paladins to leave the top left corner of ye old alignment chart and branch out, really you're not losing anything. It's only room to gain. It doesn't devalue your lawful good paladin because my chaotic good paladin may now legally exist, right? It's still good. We're still basically down for the same thing. We're still fighting demons side by side. We just happen to follow a slightly different path, as a lot of people in real life are wont to do. On top of that, though no class has been really as restricted as the paladin in terms of alignment, everyone but the paladin at the start of this playtest got moved off their alignment leashes. Want to play a chaotic neutral monk, lawful good barbarian, lawful evil druid? It's doable now. There's no reason the paladin should not follow suit. And if this becomes a thing at your table that you as a GM just can't stand, don't like, won't have, Rarity exists in Pathfinder now to denote whether or not things can be found. Like, look at the Jabberwock. That's a unique creature. It's perfectly okay for you at the table, though have a session 0, please, to say that Redeemers, the neutral good paladin, are the order of the day. Defenders exist but are a little more uncommon, and Liberators, the CG variant, are just unheard of with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 and every bit of spicy flavor in between. I promise the game's not going to self-destruct. Anyway, moving forward. In addition to the paladin code of the playtest, you must never willingly commit an evil act, such as murder, torture, or the casting of an evil spell, and you must never perform acts anathema to your deity, and you must not use actions that you know will harm an innocent or through an action caused an innocent immediate harm when you knew your action could reasonably prevent it. This tenet doesn't force you to take action against possible harm to innocents or to sacrifice your life and potential to attempt to protect an innocent. There are extra tenets stapled on, depending on your cause. As of right now, we have 3, like I said, the Defender for lawful good, the Redeemer for neutral good, and the Liberator for chaotic good. A Defender's Paladin code staples on, you must act with honor, never cheating, lying, or taking advantage of others, and you must respect the lawful authority of the legitimate ruler or leadership in whichever land you may be, following their laws unless they violate a higher tenet. If you're neutral good, you must first try to redeem or rehabilitate those who commit evil acts rather than immediately killing them or meting out undeserved punishment. However, if they choose to continue on a wicked path, you might need to take more extreme measures, especially if innocents would come to harm. You must show compassion for others regardless of their authority or station. I've never, ever, ever, ever heard a Paladin of Sarenrae described better than I just did. That's literally what they are. That's how they function. Now they don't have to deviate from their goddess's alignment. I think that's sweet. Anywho, if you are chaotic good, in addition to all of the other normal paladin stuff, as a liberator, you must respect the choices others make for their own lives and can't force someone to act in a particular way or threaten them if they don't act that way. You must demand and fight for the freedom of others to make their own decisions. You must never engage in or countenance slavery or tyranny, which is basically how I've always played my CG paladins. Like I've told everybody, devs at Paizo that I've spoken to or otherwise, it feels so good to be able to play that legally without having to go to my GM and grovel for a house rule. Anywho, all of these guys are getting new reactions. Defenders with Retributive Strike are seeing a bit of an overhaul to that smack them if they smack your friend reaction. The trigger is the same. An enemy attacks one of your allies or a creature that's friendly to you. Both the enemy ally or friendly creature must be within 15 feet of you. The ally or friendly creature gains resistance to all damage from the triggering attack. The resistance equals 2 plus your level. So at level 10, your friend just got resistance 12 to that damage. And if your friend happens to be a commoner with ye old pitchfork who's about to get a goblin in the face to death, well, you just, defended him. Anyway, if that enemy is in your reach, make a melee strike against the creature with a -2 penalty, so there's no longer the enfeebling bit. Partially because that's being fed to the other good paladins, but it's okay. You still literally could save someone's life. If that's not a lawful good paladin, maybe I need to be re-educated on how a D20 works. Anywho, neutral good. It's Glimpse of Redemption. Trigger is the same. The ally or friendly creature also gains resistance equal to 2 plus your level. Ugh. That's so good. Barbarians run out of rage rounds and is gasping for breath in the corner. And by the way, the Barbarian's getting a pretty big overhaul too. But you also cause your foe to hesitate under the weight of their sins as visions of possible redemption play out in their mind's eye. The foe chooses one of 2 options. Either the triggering attack is disrupted and still counts against their multiple attack penalty, or after the attack, the enemy becomes enfeebled 2 until its next turn, which is kind of what we saw in the old Retributive Strike. I tend to avoid things that allow the bad guy to have an option. I'd rather pick the one that's good and force it upon you, but really those are both good. Either the attack missed, and they might take that if, well, it was going to do no damage anyway, why not? But at higher levels, if you're only shrugging off some of that damage, they might rather be enfeebled. That's a -2 on attack, damage, and strength-based checks. I can dig it. Yet chaotic good. You get Liberating Step. Its trigger, an enemy attacks, grabs, or grapples one of your allies or creatures that's friendly to you. Both the enemy and ally or friendly creature must be within 15 feet of you. You call out a liberating command, allowing your ally to move to safety. The ally or friendly creature gains that resistance. After suffering the effects of the attack, grab, or grapple, the ally can attempt to break free of effects entangling, grabbing, immobilizing, or restraining them, either attempting a new saving throw against any one such effect that had a saving throw, or as a free action, they can attempt to break free or escape from any one effect that allows such attempts. Finally, if they can move, they get a free step, even if there wasn't any hindrance for them to escape from. Okay, so watch. You're playing a CG Paladin. You've showed up all super studly in your studly studded leather armor with your rapier in one hand and your ale half drunk, just like you, in the other hand. And one of your friends is going to get hit. This is your reaction. You know they're fighting something with a really high to hit, and they're going to do a lot of damage. So we take the first attack. That's fine. But then the ally steps back 5 feet, most likely out of the range of what attacked them, so they have to burn an action to get back up close, assuming they don't have like sudden charge or some other kind of class feat. They lost an attack. All 3 of these are really, really, really strong. Matter of fact, all 3 of these are really strong together. So as your friendly neighborhood liberator, let's work together, guys. I know there's at least one defender that's hearing me. We'll need to find a redeemer friend, and we'll be good. We'll be super good. Nobody's touching us, and if they are, there's way too much resistance. It's super sweet. Anywho, at levels after level 1, the Holy Smite class feature is being replaced with Divine Smite, and Aura of Justice is being replaced with Mighty Aura. Divine Smite works just, totally different, because it's not just, Holy Smite. For the defender, the target of a successful retributive strike takes persistent good damage equal to your charisma modifier. So, Holy Smite. Redeemer gets an ability that says a foe that chooses not to disrupt its attack from your glimpse of redemption takes persistent good damage. Liberator, it's still persistent good damage, but only if they had an ally under any effect entangling, grabbing, immobilizing, or restraining when you use Liberating Step. At level 11, we're picking up Mighty Aura in place of Aura of Justice. Defenders, when you use Retributive Strike, whether or not your attack is a success, you can allow all allies who are within 15 feet of you and have the target in their melee range to spend a reaction to strike the target at a -5. Redeemers can reduce the resistance granted from Glimpse of Redemption by 2, and apply it to yourself and all allies within 15 feet of you, in addition to the triggering ally. Fireball incoming? Nah. Liberators, if you're not breaking anyone out, everyone can step within 15 feet of you. In addition to that triggering ally, we all just lean back. Not bad. I can dig it. Now, on top of these changes, the Paladin and every other class in this playtest is getting a whole slew of new class feats. From feat level 14's Divine Reflexes, giving you an additional reaction that you can use only to perform your Paladin reaction. Quick Block at level 8, giving you an extra reaction that you can use only to perform a shield block. Smite Evil for 2 actions, calling upon Divine Power and making a weapon or unarmed strike against a foe that you have witnessed harming an ally or innocent. The strike deals 2 extra weapon damage dice if that target is evil. Whether or not they're evil, the strike applies any special effects that normally apply on a retributive strike, like Divine Smite, and you can convert all the physical damage from attacks into good damage. Really, there's just way too much to jam into one video and not do one of the classes less justice than it deserves. So once again, this PDF is in the description, in my Dropbox. You guys are definitely welcome to it, because it is super exciting. Now we're picking it up from the top. Before we get down to every class, Clerics and Druids can now make gestures for somatic components while holding something in their hands, as long as they're not restrained or otherwise unable to gesture at all. If they need to touch someone or something, they can do so while holding something, as long as part of your hand is able to touch the target. That's almost so good for Mirrodin. I'm still Gestalt with a sorcerer, so I need that hand free to do some blasty sorcerer stuff. So close to having a shillelagh. Oh well. Update 1.6 is adding a bunch of overhauls to alchemical items as we begin to move down the classes themselves. Empower Bombs is being removed, and these are being added mostly to compensate for that. But now other characters can use them too, and it's basically everything. On top of that, the Alchemist is switching to infused reagents instead of resonance points to make alchemical items. On top of that, they're getting a research field, like the Paladin was getting a specific cause. A bunch of the classes are basically getting subclasses. Not everyone, though I have high hopes that everyone will eventually. Since the Alchemist is getting a basically from the ground up rework, here you see a table. This is how this works now. Let's talk about these research fields, shall we? First up, of course, is the bomber. Bombers start with the formulas for 2 additional first-level alchemical bombs in their formula book. When throwing an alchemical bomb with the splash trait, as you do, the splash damage does not affect your allies just right out the gate. At level 1, it's precise bombs. Thank you, Paizo. So tired of getting blown up. But of course, you have to see the ally to know that you don't want to cook their face with Alchemist fire. Next, it's according to a quick Google search, the chirurgeon. Or, the surgeon is probably how I'll pronounce that if I ever play that. This guy starts with the formulas for not 1 but 2 additional first level antidotes, antitoxins, or elixirs of life. As long as they're at least trained in medicine, you can attempt a crafting check instead of a medicine check for any of the untrained and trained uses of medicine because, your intelligence is probably higher than your wisdom. Fair enough. If you're feeling a little Jekyll and Hyde, the mutagenist gains access to uncommon mutagens and starts with the formulas for 2 right out the gate, as long as they're, first level. When you drink one of those mutagens with an onset time of a minute, treat the item's onset as the end of your next turn. And when you drink one of your mutagens with an onset time that's normally the end of your next turn, it happens on the spot. Poisoners get, yeah, you guessed it, 2 additional first level poisons or antidotes in their formula book, and they can apply injury poisons to weapons with a single action, 1 action, rather than a 3-action activity. So, it's combat viable. You don't have to be down a turn. At 5th level, 7th level, 11th level, 13th level, 15th level, the Alchemist is getting different kinds of discoveries dependent on their field. Bombers become better with bombs. Oh, wow. Who knew that would happen? Chirurgeons can create more elixirs of life and eventually get max hit points, so this is no longer on a class feat, which opens up more room for your Alchemist to archetype or try other things in class. And they certainly will exist as this game becomes Pathfinder 2.0 and the splat books start a rolling. Mutagenists become experts in unarmed attacks and can ignore onset times. Poisoners get poison resistance and a bonus to saving throws against poisons. They get their hands on extra poisons. You can apply poisons to your hand. I thought about playing a rogue archetyped into monk who would do that with tiger style, because that's slashing damage, right? We can do that. That's safe for me. I'm not in trouble if that happens. Next up, it's the Barbarian. Rage is getting an overhaul. It still gives you a +2 conditional bonus to damage with melee weapons and unarmed strikes. The bonus is halved if it's agile. The bonus increases by 1. At level 3 and every 4 after. You get a -1 to AC, and you can't do brain things, but at the end of each of your turns, you must attempt a flat check to determine whether you keep raging. The DC starts at 0 on the first round, so you pass, and goes up by 5 each following round to a maximum of DC 20. If you fail, your rage ends immediately. When your rage ends for any reason, you lose any remaining temporary hit points from using the rage action, and you can't rage again for a round, and you're fatigued for a round. You can't voluntarily stop raging while in combat, but if you're not in combat, you can end it by spending an action with the concentrate trait. But I don't know how I feel about that. I had originally read this. I interpreted that as an extra round of rage, and then from there you're gambling to get more. At the end of round 1, you throw a dice and you beat a DC 0 because you're awesome, but then at round 2 you have to beat a 5 and you roll a 4. Barbarians must be doing some really, really crazy stuff at some people's tables for Paizo to feel this is necessary. That feels a little much to me. I already was a little worried about getting fatigued for a round because fatigue hurts. Fatigue stacks up because now it's a 20% chance at the end of the second round to lose your rage. It could definitely be a thing, but if I've learned one thing about the tabletop role-playing hobby, it's that RNG is the only thing that's super overpowered. That's why witches were so good in first edition. This feels like a gamble. A little bit of give, a little bit of take. We'll have to see. Of course, barbarians are getting other stuff to play around as well, and some other things are getting chopped around, but we're not going to hang up on that forever. Moving on to the bards. The bard, like all of the casters, now knows an additional cantrip, and the muses are getting some changes. Namely, that's the multifarious muse. A level 1 class feat for the bard that says your muse doesn't fall into a single label. Choose a type of muse other than your own. You gain a first level feat that requires that muse. And your muse is now also a muse of that type, allowing you to take feats with the other muses as prerequisites. You can take this feat multiple times, and all of the lore, maestro, and polymath feats have changed prereqs as well. Not nearly as exciting as the Paladin. Moving forward, the Cleric, quote, most of the data we've received on clerics suggests they're doing well, so they aren't changing much in 1.6. However, we've had consistent feedback that the Cleric could use channel energy too many times, especially now that there's easy out-of-combat healing with treat wounds, making clerics feel too powerful and mandatory. We're reducing the number, and other adjustments should improve the other healing characters, such as increasing Good Berry and Lay on Hands, both of which, by the way, 1d6 at the base now. No more Hospice Knight, just flat out, right at the gate, 1d6 healed. Shield clerics and clerics with two-handed weapons get a buff, as they are the main beneficiaries of that somatic component change we've seen, and now Emblazoned Symbol is no longer a feat. You're not taxed to do it, it's just there. 1.6 is changing channel energy from a number of times per day equal to 3 plus your charisma to just your charisma. I'm guessing the parties that took more than one cleric into a fair at Somberfell Hall did good. Scissors does indeed still cut paper. Anywho, next up it is the Druid. The Druid, like all the casters, is getting one more cantrip, and in addition, the Animal Companion's armor class is buffing, yes, and barding is becoming less mandatory to keep your companion alive. Wild Order Druids, hey, I just made a video about that. Animal form is being lowered, and the animal shape feat is making the combat form available sooner, adding a 9th level heighten for monstrosity form and adding monstrosity shape. True Shape Changer now allows you to turn into a kaiju or green man with a single use of nature incarnate. And I forgot that was a thing when I made the Wild Druid video. Didn't think I needed it with all of the temporary hit points that I was going to stab directly into my chest. And Wild Claws, the power none of the Wild Druids were thinking about, is now Wild Morph, which gets more flexible depending on the amount of Wild Order feats you have. Specifically, that means when you take the Wild Shape class feat, starting at 3rd level, you can cast Animal Form by spending a use of your Wild Shape pool, which is 1 level earlier. Love it. Animal Shape is being removed. It's being rolled into Wild Shape. Form Control is being moved to 4th level. Whoa, that was a 10th level feat. That was a really good 10th level feat. That was a 10th level feat that let you stay in Wild Shape for an hour. You mean to tell me now I don't have to wait until the game's half over to fly across the sea for an hour or like swim in it? That's a win. The guy who's playing a druid is happy. Yeah, anyway, Insect Shape, if you're a Wild Order Druid, whenever you use your Wild Shape pool for the pest form and take the shape of an insect that can't fly, you can change for a whole day. Yeah. Feel like turning into a beetle and sitting in the rogue's pocket for 24 hours and doing nothing? Beetle stuff, hanging out, waiting for the right moment to turn into a grizzly bear and kill someone dead? I am the happiest. And now Pest Shape is worthy of even thinking about. Ferocious Shape puts a +1 conditional bonus on athletics checks using the bonus that you would get from wild shaping into anything. Soaring Shape now lets you turn into flying insects or flying animals just right away. You don't need Animal Shape or Insect Shape. And if you're a Wild Order Druid who took this, whenever you polymorph by spending a use from the pool, your attack goes up by 1 to a maximum of your AC because, can't hit the bird too fast. Elemental Shape, the Wild Druids get resistance 2 to critical hits and precision damage. Not unlike the Elementals, they want to emulate, and you get resistance from Dragon Shape. On top of that, at 10th level, it's Plant Shape. To cast Plant Form, it's Monstrosity Form with Monstrosity Shape. Yeah, this is nuts. We talked about Animal Companions. Light Barding now is a +2 AC bonus. Heavy Barding is a +3. Animal Companions also get a +1 item bonus to AC when not wearing Barding. Young Companions get a Dexterity of +2. Full-grown Companions see that item bonus buffed to +2. Nimble Companions see it buffed to +3. Not bad. Don't have to slap barding on something anymore. Don't have to spend that gold. And it helps compensate for the fact that I can't cast mage armor on my dog. I'm okay with this. This is good. Now, Wild Morph is a first level power for 2 action. As we knew before, if you had Wild Shape, you could turn your hands into claws and be the shifter that would do a d6 of slashing damage. Insect Shape instead turns it into jaws with the same amount of damage. Also, you have a bug face. Wild Morph now, if you have Elemental Shape, lets you morph your body to be partially made of elemental matter, which gives you resistance 5 to crits and precision. Plant Shape lets you increase your reach to 10 or 15 with a reach weapon as you have vine arms. Hello, Abyssal Bloodrager. Didn't see you there. Soaring Shape gives you a fly speed. Heightening these, of course, does a lot of crazy goodness. It's looking real good. Anyway, that was a mess. Fighters are remaining basically the same. The ship sails on for the dude with the shield, which is good because I have a little free time this week, and it's the fighter optimization video that's next. Though it's worth noting that stances now work a little differently. A stance is a general combat strategy that you enter by using an action with the stance trait. After you take an action with the stance trait, you can't take another one for a round. You can enter a be in a stance only in encounter mode. The stance lasts until you get knocked out, its requirements are violated, or until you enter a new stance, whichever comes first. This allows you to enter a stance, but use other open actions in the same round. Flexibility is the name of the game. Actually, the name of the game is Pathfinder, but that was a bad joke. Monks. In Pathfinder 1.6, the monk who honestly has performed admirably. I'm really stoked to play a rogue who archetypes into monk. This works for Mirrodin. I'm going to kick the ball out and see what happens. Will someone GM a rogue that archetypes into monk for me? I want to do it. Because they're really good. I legit watched a halfling walk up to a ghast and punch it in the face to death. Same's true for my strength monk that I had in both the Lost Star and the Mirrored Moon. You ever see a dragon try to take off and then get dragon-styled in the back of the head and die? Yeah. Monks are super scary right now, in this one's humble opinion. But now they're getting more flexibility in terms of their key powers. We're looking at more ways to get access to key, and there's an updated, more powerful version of Key Strike and a Key Strike feat, which of course translates into a whole slew of different powers. Key Rush to let you move twice, 2 strides or 2 steps, 1 stride and a step, and get concealment. That sounds not unlike something the Sword Sage of 3-5 could do. I forget the name of the style off the top of my head. Something Shadow Stance. Anyway, Key Strike lets you still get a +1 conditional bonus to attack rolls, and it does a d6 of extra damage. The damage can be force, negative, or positive. Okay, so does that mean I can now punch my friend and heal him? Moving right along, next up is the Ranger. Hunt target is getting a pretty big facelift for the people who don't want to run up and make a billion attacks. Much like the Alchemist saw specialization, much like the Paladin is seeing causes, the Ranger gets Hunter's Edge, with the flurry option representing the original hunt target that, in this one's humble opinion, is so good. All weapons are agile weapons are strictly betters. But if that's not your thing, at first level you're picking a Hunter's Edge. Flurry, of course, is still the spinning circle of scimitars. But on top of that, in case you missed the Slayer or your Bren Tree Cutter, with precision, the first time you hit your hunted target in a round, it's a d6 of extra precision damage. That's real fun for the Ranger who archetypes into Rogue or vice versa, assuming that archetyping grabs you Hunter's Edge. No word on that right now, we'll have to see. Stalker allows you to get a +2 circumstance bonus to deception, intimidation, stealth checks, and any checks to recall knowledge about the target. So now the Ranger can face a little. Now the Ranger can demoralize a little. Now the Ranger's looking pretty good for scare to death. Okay, that's a thing. Sure. This, of course, continues to up Masterful Hunter at 17th level. Flurry works the same. Precision gives you an extra d6 if you're a master with your weapon. At 17th, you better be. Stalker goes from 2 to 4. Feels good. I definitely probably would still take Flurry all the time because I like to hit. But the sneak attack variant does kind of scream build around me. Also, your animal companion gains the action's base benefit and initial benefit of Hunter's Edge. So all of your pets are sneak attacking too, or all of your pets are better at deception. Fun, or they're all flurrying. Holy crap, I really like it. Rogues are also seeing a pretty big change as well. Their key ability score is opening up if you're a brute or a scoundrel, and people are getting more access to things based on their rogue technique. If you chose brute attack, you're trained in medium armor and can choose for that key ability score to be strength instead of dexterity. Scoundrels faint, you can choose charisma instead. Oh, it's so good. Unbalancing Blow is moving from level 4 to level 2. Brutal Beating, if you have Brute Attack, could cause your enemy to be frightened 1 if you crit. Distracting Feint for the Scoundrels puts a -2 on perception and reflex saves after you feint for when the fireball comes in, and you obviously evasion out of the way as they incinerate. Oh, this is good. Sorcerers are seeing not a whole heck of a lot of much, except for, a brand new bloodline. Okay, sit tight, kids. In addition to a new sorcerer feat, Bloodline Heightening, at feat level 10, which lets you spontaneously heighten all of your bloodline's granted spells, we also see the rise of the Diabolic Bloodline. It's a divine caster, of course, with the skills Deception and Religion. The granted spells Produce Flame, Charm, Flaming Sphere, Enthrall, Suggestion, Crushing Despair, True Seeing, Divine Decree, Divine Aura, Meteor Swarm, and 3 new powers. Diabolic Edict at power level 1 says for 1 of anything and 1 black mana, at instant speed, target player sacrifices a creature. But actually, side note, I miss magic. Anywho, for 1 action at a range of 30 feet, 1 willing living creature for a round gives a target a +1 conditional bonus to attack rolls and skill checks related to performing the task that you demand they perform. If it refuses, it takes a -1 conditional penalty, though the target has to be willing. So that's awkward. You can't really use that in combat unless you're literally selling your friends to the devil. I love it. I love it. I love it. Embrace the Pit. Power level 3. 2 actions. 1 minute. Horns grow from your skull and your skin takes on the features of the devil responsible for your diabolic bloodline. You look just like your mom. You gain resistance 5 to evil, fire, and poison, and resistance 1 to physical damage that is not silver. You gain weakness 5 to good damage and can take good damage even if you are good. Heighten this up by 2, and the resistances and weaknesses go up. Hellfire Plume at power level 5 for 2 actions, out to 60 feet in a 10-foot radius, 60-foot tall cylinder. Throws down 5d4 fire and 5d4 evil damage. Heighten increases more, and failures are bad. I've never really had it in my head to play a Diabolist, but I've GM'd for one in the past. Donald, you out there? Looks good. Last but certainly not least, it's the Wizard. Wizard is getting a new class feature called Quick Preparation. You spend 10 minutes to empty one of your prepared spell slots and prepare a different spell from your spellbook in its place. If you're interrupted during such a swap, the original spell remains prepped and can still be cast. You can try again to swap out the spell later, but you must start the process over. Once you hit Expert Spellcaster, you can trade 2 spell slots of the same level for a bonus spell slot that's 2 levels higher. It has to be a level you can normally cast. Specialists can trade 2 times per day, but the bonus spell must be of your school. Universalists can do it once a day, but can do whatever. Masters go to 4, Legends go to 6. The idea here is the Wizard is supposed to be the master of the prepped casting, much like they were back in the day. And you know what? I still don't see my Cavalier archetype. Yeah, I just ran a Control F. It's not here. I was hoping it'd be like a fighter subclass or something. No, we don't have it. I'm hoping that means the Cavalier is going to be its own class, which kind of would make sense given how every class has an archetype. But could I still have the archetype, please? And can I kill people with lances? And can I move forward 5 feet and back 5 feet with my horses work together as a cavalier and bow them to death? Because that's a charge now. Holy crap, this video is long. That's a lot of information to process. And again, PDFs down in the description so you guys can disseminate this yourself. What do you guys think about all this craziness? Remember when we talked about Paladins a little while ago? Yeah, we did. Are we cool with those? How do we feel about this versatility? And are we still stoked out there to play the Pathfinder playtest? Because I know I am. I am beyond full brew mode. I need to just have more games where I am the player and I will build all the things. And also be sure to like and subscribe for more content. This Saturday, we're optimizing a fighter. See you then.